My guest is Alexander Vogt, who's a spokesperson for the Monarchist League and a very significant composer. Welcome, Alexander.
Thank you for having me, David. It's great to be with you.
It's a pleasure. In fact, when I said that you're a significant composer, you are also the musical editor of Quadrant, a very serious publication in Australia. Uh,
Yes, that's true. That's a role we carved out in the middle of last year and doing some good work there. So very happy to have that posting.
Very good. You, you wrote in Spectator recently that despite serious illnesses in the royal family, the Australian constitutional system, the constitutional monarchy, continued to function without any difficulty. And you were critical of some of the media's intrusive activities, at times conspiratorial coverage of the illnesses. And you said that you hoped that, or you thought that the media might be embarrassed by some of the ridiculous agendas that they'd published. What encouraged you to write your piece in Spectator?
Well, I think first and foremost, I was encouraged to write simply because I am a monarchist and I feel um, terrible that the Princess of Wales, following the King, of course, has come down with this cancer diagnosis. And my girlfriend actually said to me, she said, well, lots of people are diagnosed with cancer. I said, yes, but not lots of people have the same constitutional obligations to so many realms and territories that those in the royal family do. And it's just such a shame to see a beautiful woman in what should be the peak of her life, really, come down with such a cruel, evil disease that is cancer. But to your point about the media, I was concerned that there'd been quite a conspiratorial approach to the Princess of Wales. I think there's been a conspiratorial increase in many different fields. To be honest, I'm a huge critic, David, of postmodernism, as I'm sure you probably are as well. And one of the things that we always talk about with postmodernism is the decline of critical thought and the decline of quality. And that's because we've replaced the metric of truth with the metric of feelings. But conversely to that, um, one of the effects of postmodernism has been, I think, a rapid increase in conspiratorial thought because we've become so skeptical of authority figures, laying down messages for us and that sort of thing. So I was just a bit upset to see how the media and some commentators had approached the issue of the princess's um, absence, if you like. She's a member of the royal family and she's a human being. She's entitled to some privacy. Otherwise, but royal family in Kensington Palace, as you know, is as transparent as they can be. And we saw that with the king's cancer diagnosis. It was not something that he had to say that he had prostate cancer, but he did. And we've seen the prostate, um, is it the Prostate Council of Australia? I just can't quite remember their name. But the peak advocacy group in this country for prostate cancer really praised the king for his advocacy in that regard, bringing attention to an issue that kills a lot of men each year. So, um, in some, David, eh, there's usually is it is what I can't remember what the law is, but the simpler explanation is always the one, and the simple explanation here was the Princess of Wales was just trying to protect her three young children from cancer, and admitting that she had cancer. And the conspiratorial thought around that, I don't think serviced anyone really.
Yes, they should have been ashamed of themselves. Then you also pointed out, didn't you, that the head of the Australian Republican movement, the executive director, and they change their executive director every second year. They've had so many, and they also change their chairman, interestingly. But you say that Isaac Jeffrey, who's the chairman, went on the record and said that the royal family has zero transparency, and that the Princess of Wales was just a rich person on the other side of the world, which was pretty dismissal. And then you went on to say that after a referendum in which, in 1999, in which too much detail was provided, and then the subsequent referendum where there was too little detail, the Republican movement is trying to get some form of consensus, some form of political consensus between the different parties. And you are scathing about that. And I think did you not once say that this is, I've forgotten the exact terms you used, but you said that it is oxymoronic. A Republican liberal is oxymoronic. What's your position on all of that?
Well, I think that's certainly the case. I'm a big believer, David, that if something is not working so well, um, it's far better to just replace the engine in the car rather than start screwing little bits and bobs onto it, trying to modify it until you don't really recognize what it was to begin with. Now, the fundamental principle of the We Believe statement by Robert Menzies is we believe in the Crown as the unifying embodiment of our nation or our national unity or something like that. And it seems to me very difficult to say that you're a Menzian, which everyone in the Liberal Party should be, one would have thought. Um, it seems to me very difficult to say that you're a Menzian if you don't believe in the Crown, which is what a Republican does. They don't believe in the Crown, they believe in the president or something to replace the Crown. So that's what I would say there. Yes, it's interesting times that we live in. Of course, the Liberal Party's full of diversity of thought. That's not the issue. But I always go back to the 1951 referendum that Menzies tried to ban communism. And um, I think although Menzies later regretted that from a political perspective, what it shows us is that the founder of the Liberal Party was not prepared to entertain illiberal ideas for the sake of liberalism. Now, I think if you measure up all the metrics that we could possibly gauge our crown and our constitutional monarchy on, whether that's a democratic or a political metric or even a cultural, aesthetic metric, certainly an economic metric, that is one that is often not discussed, you would see that the crown and our constitutional monarchy comes out well ahead. And that being the case, anything for the sake of change or for the sake of liberalism that might create for us an illiberal outcome in this country, I don't think we should entertain.
I think you are spot on in relation to Menzies. Menzies was not a Republican. Menzies was a very strong monarchist. At the time of the referendum, Amanda Vanstone went round the country proclaiming the proposition that if Menzies were alive today, he would be a Republican. She had no means of persuading us that that was so. But at the convention, Peter Costello, who had produced an excellent paper for the Samuel Griffith Society supporting the Crown, suddenly became a Republican. I think it was pretty transparent at the time. He was trying to demonstrate brand differentiation from John Howard, that he was the younger man. He wanted Howard's position, and being a young man, he was all in favour of Republic, which I thought lowered him in the esteem, certainly, of many Liberals. But I think you're absolutely right. And I want to thank you so much for not only this comment, which was very good, and it's been passed around by a number of people that I know, and they all praise what you've said there, but also your continuing role in relation to the defence of the Crown, which is very important. So thank you very much, and thank you for making time for this interview.
Thank you, David. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Good.